Hey, welcome back to the Southbound Sports Report. I'm your host, Richie Leahy. This is our second episode. I'm still finishing up things with this show to get it in the works and listed on iTunes. You can follow us right now on Twitter, S-Bound Sports. This is a show that's going to give us a little bit more personal and immediate feedback on big events. The biggest event right now for us is the Pittsburgh Steelers in the playoffs. The NFL divisional round has kicked off yesterday. The Eagles, I was surprised to see, they pulled off what I would assume is an upset over the Falcons. I know they were the higher seed, but with Carson Wentz out, it's tough to view them as a favorite in these playoffs, and they were able to hold off the Falcons, the reigning NFC divisional champ from last year who lost in the Super Bowl, got the win, and are moving on. Now, on the AFC side of things, the Patriots, they looked dominant over Tennessee. I don't really have any feedback on that. We knew they were going to be big. We predicted all along that it was going to end up being the Patriots and the Steelers in the AFC Championship. So, right now, Patriots are in. Steelers need to get the job done today. They are facing the Jaguars. Now, this team, they have met this season in Week 5 of the regular season. Jaguars put on a dominating performance. They won 30-9 in that game. And this was a matchup that I was hoping the Steelers could avoid. That's why the Patriots upset of the Steelers, I don't know if it was considered an upset, but it was at home for Pittsburgh. Came down, it looked like the Steelers had won. They overturned a touchdown late, and it gave the Patriots home field advantage throughout. Also gave them the higher seed, which if the Steelers had won that game, they would have played Tennessee this week. But right now it's looking like if the Steelers are going to get to the Super Bowl, they're going to have to beat some good teams. That's starting off with Jacksonville. Jacksonville, right now, they're a different beast than they played in Week 5. And they got it done basically on the ground in that game. Leonard Fournette in Week 5 had 181 yards. He averaged 6.5 yards a carry, 2 touchdowns. And he wasn't the only one. Chris Ivory filled in. He averaged 5.1 yards a carry. That's crazy. You can't do that. You can't have both running backs for the opposing team average 5 yards a carry. Because if they do that, the game's basically over because you don't even have to pass the ball. If you're able to run and have that dominant of a rushing game, the game's going to be over before it even begins. And Blake Bortles in that game, he was only 8 for 14, had 95 yards, didn't have a touchdown, and had an interception. Now, last week, he looked awful against the Bills, and that game was almost unwatchable for the NFL whenever they're doing the wild card weekend. Then you have the Jacksonville Jaguars take on the Bills, and Blake Bortles can't really throw the ball, but that doesn't matter if the Steelers cannot stop the run today. That's their key in the game. I think the Steelers are going to put up points. They need to get things done on the defensive side of the ball. They have to find a way to stop the run. I'm hoping that they make some adjustments. The biggest loss here is going to be Ryan Shazier. He's out, and that gave the Steelers some speed. I don't know if it was kind of a matchup problem, which I'm hoping it isn't, because if that's the case, then Steelers will be eliminated from the playoffs here early. But I'm hoping that it was kind of like some scheme thing early in the year. They're figuring out their rotation on defense, and they can get things adjusted. Because after that game, the Steelers kind of went on a run. I think it was that game that turned their season around. And they got stuff done and ended with one of their best records of all time. And the last time they had this many wins, I think they went to the Super Bowl. Can't remember if it was the one that they won or the one that they lost. But that gives us a good look at today's game, and hopefully they can get that done. And I've heard that Antonio Brown, his calf isn't quite 100%. He's going to play, which I expected him to play. I'm still confused on the injury because he took a shot to it, so it was kind of either, this confirms my fear that it was some type of bone bruise. And if you get a bone bruise in a calf, it only takes one hit. And with the way the NFL is switching around the rules, they want people to go low. He could get hit again. And I know, having those before, having one myself, like that hurts so bad, even to just touch the area. And the way it looked, it was like higher up, almost to the knee, which makes me think that anytime he gets hit, he's going to be in a lot of pain. I don't know how much it's going to affect performance-wise. When I had mine was more around the knee. And I knew I could still run and couldn't feel anything, but if I got hit, it was almost like a debilitating pain, like you couldn't do anything until it subsided and it took a couple minutes. I never tried to. I know the NFL injects like the painkillers and things. I've never tried that myself. So if he gets a shot there, he might not even show any signs if that's what the injury actually is. It's listed as a calf injury. If you watch the play, I forget what week it was, he took a shot right to his leg as he was going. I was afraid that it was going to be a broken bone. And it still might be. It still might be some type of fracture in the leg. I know Terrell Owens played in the Super Bowl with some type of lower leg fracture, and that's fine if you're in an air cast enough for it to heal. They said that it wasn't broke, and it was just some type of calf injury. The only other thing that it could have been was really a bone bruise. I mean, getting hit isn't going to give you a strained calf or a pulled muscle. So hopefully he can avoid some big shots today, get that done, and give the Steelers some other weapons. Steelers have to keep passing the ball around. I think that's what makes Ben dangerous when he was in that game. And this is going back to week 5 again. From the Steelers side of it, Ben Roethlisberger had 5 interceptions that game. He was 33 for 55. He threw for 312 yards. But you can't turn the ball over. Rushing, Le'Veon Bell only averaged 3.1 yards a carry. And when you're getting 15 carries a game, you're only getting 3 yards. That's total opposite of what the Jaguars were able to do. They were able to run the ball on the ground, keep the clock running, and that's basically what they needed to do to win. Ben Roethlisberger had a chance to get some points on the board. Jaguars only scored 30 points. If you're telling me you have running backs that are getting 181 yards, but Blake Bortles wasn't able to get extra points through the air, and so realistically, looking at that stat line, Steelers with 5 interceptions, they only gave up 30 points on defense. If Ben can limit turnovers, and they have to get touchdowns. I watched the Panthers game last week. I don't know if we touched about it enough on the big show, but the Panthers, they turned the ball over too many times. Not turn the ball over. They settled for field goals, I mean. So every time they were down in the red zone, they were settling for field goals. They let the Saints go ahead and get touchdowns, and they were in the game late. If they convert 1 or 2 of those early field goals into touchdowns, then the game's over. So that's what you're looking at right here with the Steelers. Limit the turnovers, get some touchdowns, get 1 or 2 touchdowns early, and I think you can bury the Jaguars. So I'm hoping that this turns out to be a win for the Steelers. It's looking like it's going to be a great hard-hitting matchup. I honestly have this as the best matchup of the week. It's going to be a slightly above. Today's definitely the best matchups if you're looking at it, because you have the NFC, what is it, the NFC South battle? Is that who's on the second game? I know the Saints are playing. Let's go ahead and bring up the bracket. So right now you have the Patriots moving on. Oh, it's the Saints and the Vikings. That's the second game. I thought that was going to be the best matchup. I knew the Saints coming in. They're coming in hot, and it's kind of like a tale of 2 different styles. The Vikings build on the heavy defense, low-scoring Saints. Are they going to put up points? To me, that's the most intriguing matchup, but I think the Jaguars and Steelers are the best matchup. I know the Jaguars blew them out last game, but you're getting to the point where Steelers are hitting their groove. They have the playoff experience. The Jaguars don't. Jaguars have a lot of young players. They're built by Tom Coughlin, who had success with the Giants in the playoffs. He knows how to build a playoff-winning team. And right now, the Steelers are going up against that. We'll see what happens. Strength on strength. Second game, you have 2 different styles here. Vikings, are they going to be able to get it done? Are they going to be able to hold Drew Brees? Drew Brees has the experience. Because that's setting up to be probably the NFC matchup. You're going to have 2 great matchups either way next week. Because the Eagles, without their starting quarterback, are they going to be able to play? I think they would play the Vikings closer, just because the Vikings' strength is more defense. And if the Eagles can kind of do the same thing like they did with the Falcons, they held the Falcons to 10 points. And that's crazy. And then you're coming back and potentially playing the Saints, built the same way, high scoring. Can they hold them? Or the Vikings? You're playing right into the strength of the Eagles. Let's see who can score the most points. And that's where the Jaguars and Steelers are at right now. Are the Jaguars going to be able to score on the ground like they did in the first matchup? And are the Steelers going to be able to limit turnovers? So we'll probably end up I'll probably touch back in right after this show on the Southbound Sports Report. Still in the works trying to get this on iTunes, so by the time you hear this, keep an eye out. Well, if you're listening to it live, you can listen to these live on Twitter for people that aren't, or like if you're coming to find this later, where it's also going to post, I think, automatically on YouTube, and then we're going to go ahead and get it uploaded to iTunes. So you'll be able to follow along there anytime we go live. And this is just going to be a format that lets us hit current events. So instead of us getting a pregame before the Steelers show on Tuesday before the game, because we weren't really sure what's going to happen with Brown. Is he going to play? He is going to play. And this lets us bring our listeners that breaking news as soon as it happens. So thanks for listening. Please subscribe. We're on Facebook, Instagram under Southbound Sports, and on Twitter as Southbound Sports. Thanks, and I'll talk to you guys after the game.